No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown for June 23, 2023. We are getting close to Money in the Bank, just over a week away on the WWE Network / Peacock. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. Much love and appreciation to you all. This is the first of 11 straight nights of live streaming on the No DQ channel. A lot of wrestling coverage, a lot to discuss. I hope you all join me for the upcoming streams. With that being said, let's get into the recap. And don't forget to like this video, share it, and just spread the word. Tell a friend about the No DQ YouTube channel. We kicked off SmackDown with footage from last week showing the Bloodline imploding, the Usos breaking away from Roman Reigns. We had the Usos come into the ring for a promo. Crowd was very much into them, chanting Uso, chanting Usi. They talked about how they still have love for Roman Reigns, but he messed up by disrespecting them. They said that Roman Reigns is now on the island of relevancy alone with the biggest snake of them all, Paul Heyman. And no TJS, no Roman Reigns on this show, but guess what? He returns next week. They had the graphic. Roman Reigns returns next week. It's only like the 50th time he's returned in the past year. He's there 1 week, off a week. I shouldn't say 50 because it feels like 50, but let's say 20 times. He's returned like 20 times now over the past year. Anyways, they said at Money in the Bank, it's lockdown. Welcome to the Uso Penitentiary. Good promo here from the Usos. I liked it. And yeah, it feels like Roman Reigns is returning more times than Paul Heyman, or not Paul Heyman, Tony Khan, more times than Tony Khan makes announcements in AEW. And yes, he will be back in London for Money in the Bank weekend, so you will get your fix of Roman Reigns next week. We had our first match of the evening with LA Knight, but it was not LA Knight versus Santos Escobar versus Butch as advertised because Vince McMahon reportedly changed matches for SmackDown. Several matches that were advertised did not happen. Shotzi versus Bayley with Bayley's Money in the Bank opportunity on the line did not happen. Baron Corbin versus Cameron Grimes did not happen. And this match with LA Knight was changed to LA Knight versus Rey Mysterio. Crowd was into LA Knight, chanting for him. I hope he wins, but I'm not getting my hopes up at Money in the Bank. Good match here. Rey Mysterio actually got in a lot of offense, which typically when that happens, the person getting the bulk of the offense ends up losing. Rey was able to hit the 619 pretty early. LA Knight rolled out to the apron, and Mysterio knocked him to the floor. Mysterio did his sliding splash, continued to build momentum after the break, but then LA Knight took control, delivered the LA elbow. Not sure what they're calling it, but it's very similar to the People's Elbow. And then Rey started to make a comeback, went for the 619 again, but this time LA Knight countered and picked up the win clean with the blunt force trauma. Was this a Vince McMahon call? because when Vince was fully in charge last year, LA Knight was Max Dupree. It was only after Vince left that we got to see LA Knight return. And now LA Knight's pinning the legendary Rey Mysterio clean. I mean, if that was a Vince call, then good for Vince. I think it was a good call if it was, in fact, Vince McMahon. D. Martin Fifth sent in a generous $10 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, do you see any other family members outside of WWE possibly signing, re-signing, joining up with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa or the Usos down the line? Jacob, Fatu, and several others. I definitely think that's a possibility, but then again, you look at Solo Sikoa, he went through NXT. Now, WWE could always fast track one of these guys to the main roster without having them go through NXT first. Just depends on if they want to use other family members for the storyline. I would not rule it out, but at the same time, I'm not exactly expecting it. Maybe Roman Reigns just brings in somebody else outside of the family to be his new bodyguard if Solo Sikoa leaves him. Maybe Solo leaves Roman and Roman drops the title, and that's the end of the heel bloodline storyline. Roman Reigns goes babyface eventually. We'll have to see what happens, but anything's possible at this point. This bloodline civil war could expand just like the NWO. We could have bloodline one color, bloodline the other color. We'll see what happens. Backstage, Solo Sikoa was walking and Ridge Holland bumped into him. And Ridge Holland, stupid baby face, turned his back on Solo Sikoa, got taken out with a Samoan spike. After a commercial break, Sheamus was upset. He yelled at Adam Pearce and then went out to the stage and issued a challenge for the main event against Solo Sikoa. We had our women's tag team title unification match. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, going up against the NXT Women's Champions, Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn. Raquel was out there at ringside, which maybe gave away the finish, although I think pretty much everybody expected the team that won to win the match. Now, Alba Fyre, Isla Dawn, they got in a lot of offense in this match, more than you might expect against Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. In fact, they were on the verge of winning when Shayna Baszler broke up a pin attempt. Ronda almost got pinned. But then after the commercial break, Ronda's team started to pick up the momentum. Ankle lock to Fire, but she managed to escape. Dawn got a hot tag. However, Shayna Baszler came back in. And then Ronda Rousey and Shayna both applied their submission moves at the same time. The Kirifuda clutch and the ankle lock. Or not the ankle lock, the armbar, excuse me. Armbar. And they scored the win with dueling submissions. So yes, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, now your unified tag team champions. And it's rumored that Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler will go over to NXT to defend the titles. Seth Rollins defeated Braun Breaker on NXT, and NXT did a pretty big number by NXT standards, and it looks like WWE is going to put more top stars on NXT moving forward, which means we might see Ronda Rousey there on NXT in the future, which, I mean, I'm fine with. The women's tag team champions, should be defending on all brands when there's only one set of titles. And I think unifying the titles was the right call. Now, after the match, Ronda Rousey had a bone to pick with Raquel, wanted to know why Raquel was there. And Raquel got on the mic and said she wants a rematch for the titles they never lost. And Ronda Rousey wanted to know what was up with this. And what was up was that Liv Morgan is back. Liv Morgan, after being gone for about a month, is back. Now you can say, well, wait a minute. If she was only going to be gone a month, why even strip them of the tag team titles in the first place? I'm thinking maybe Liv came back sooner than they were expecting. Nonetheless, Liv is back, got in the ring. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler took their leave, and I guess we'll see this match at some point. I do not expect a title change, but Ronda and Shayna have some competition now, that's for sure. Match was good for what it was, by the way. Nothing too special, but pretty decent and good showing for the former NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Where they go from here, though, is anybody's guess. We had the Grayson Waller effect. This week's guests plural, Pretty Deadly, the number one contenders for the NXT Tag Team Champions. They put over Grayson, said that his show was better than the KO show, the Kevin Owens show. They said they're going to win the tag team titles in their home country, the greatest city in the world, London, England. Going to be an interesting crowd reaction because we know how much the fans love Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but Pretty Deadly in London, in their home country. That'll be a fun match, I think. They talked about how, unlike Owens and Zayn, they are always on the same page, and they bragged about beating the 5 teams in one match. They went on for quite a bit here, and finally, the Street Profits showed up, and that set up a tag team match. And Matthew, the thing about this particular segment, it just dragged on. Like, it went on seemingly forever. They just talked and talked and talked. And I feel like it could have been half the amount of time, and they could have gotten the same amount of heat and gotten the same points across. Just felt like it went on for too long. I have to say, Grayson Waller's theme song, it's growing on me, I will say. So we had this tag team match, and funny moment, you know those tops that Pretty Deadly wear that I think look absolutely ridiculous? Well, Montez Ford took off Prince's top and put it on himself. Looked a lot better as far as I'm concerned. Street Profits came over the top with dueling dives onto Pretty Deadly, but then after the break, Pretty Deadly made their comeback and cheated to win. You had Prince rolling up Dawkins, and Wilson was on the outside providing an assist, grabbing the feet of Prince for leverage, and he was using the top to hold on to the legs. Pretty Deadly got a pretty nice win, and now they go on to face KO and Sami Zayn on next week's show. I do not think we're getting a title change, though, so everybody can relax and not get too worked up about this. We had Charlotte Flair versus Lacey Evans. Showcase match for Charlotte. I mean, it was basically a glorified squash. Lacey's there to put over other people. Build up Charlotte, not that she needs it, but build her up for the title match against Asuka on next week's SmackDown. That London show was loaded because you got the tag team title match, plus you got the women's title match on next week's show. Charlotte did some chops to Lacey Lacey got in a little bit of offense, but started taunting the fans, and that was pretty much her downfall. Charlotte did the Andrade pose and then delivered a big boot to Lacey, applied the figure eight, got the submission win, and then after the match was over, Asuka attacked Charlotte, left her laying to set up next week's title match. Backstage, Bianca Bel-Air met with Adam Pearce, and she said that she wants to be at ringside to make sure nobody cuts in line. She wants to make sure she gets the next opportunity, but Pearce was worried that, well, what happens if somebody hits her, puts their hands on her? And she said she has to defend herself, and Pearce said that's the problem. And because of that, Bianca Belair is barred from ringside on next week's show. But Pearce promised that Bianca will get her opportunity, but Bianca was not buying it. The plot thickens as far as this rumored heel turn goes for Bianca Belair. Will she go against Adam Pearce? We'll see what happens next week. We had our main event of the evening, which was Sheamus versus Solo Sikoa. Hard-hitting main event with these guys. Solo avoided the 10 beats at first, and then they both ended up on the outside of the ring. Samoan drop to Sheamus on the floor. Solo dominated for several minutes, but then Sheamus fought back. He did deliver the 10 beats. The crowd, not too bright because they yelled out 2, and Sheamus did not do it in a timely fashion, and yeah, they looked foolish. But anyways, white noise, Solo kicked out. Solo kicked out of the big knee strike. Then Solo took out Sheamus with the Samoan spike, but Sheamus fell to the outside of the ring. And then Solo delivered the Uranagi to Sheamus on the announce table, laid him up on the barricade, and then did the running hip attack through the barricade. Sheamus was apparently knocked out from this. Referee called off the match. I guess Sheamus won, or not Sheamus, Solo won by referee stoppage. Interesting finish. I know it's not what people are used to, that's for sure. But yeah, referee stoppage. And then after the match was over, EMTs came down. Solo attacked them, and that led to the Usos running down. And yeah, I thought that too, Guardian. I thought that it looked like Sheamus was not exactly hit with that. Like Solo kind of missed the mark. But anyways, Usos ran down there, attacked Solo, laid him out with super kicks, then went up top, delivered the stereo Uso splashes to Solo, and stood over his lifeless body as SmackDown went off the air. Overall, I thought the show was decent, but kind of a filler episode of SmackDown. Good wrestling on the show. The changes that were made apparently by Vince McMahon didn't really bother me that much. They did not deliver on the Bayley Shotzi match, but I mean, whatever. And I had no real interest in seeing the Corbin versus Cameron Grimes match. Roman Reigns returns next week, and we got the 2 title matches. So, this was just kind of filler. Build up Money in the Bank a little bit. You had a momentum match with LA Knight winning, which is good. He picks up a win. So I give SmackDown a B-. I thought it was decent, but nothing too special. Fairly skippable SmackDown for the most part. I mean, really, there wasn't any one particular segment where I would say, like, you absolutely have to check it out. I just thought it was pretty run-of-the-mill, but decent. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, when do you think the dissension between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa starts? Great question, and I think that we have to get through Roman Reigns versus Jey and Jimmy Uso first. Now, they could definitely milk 2 matches out of this. Whether they do that or not remains to be seen. But I think you have to do Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso in front of a crowd, which we never got. It's also 3 years in the making. And what about Roman Reigns versus Jimmy Uso? So you can get 2 pay-per-views out of Roman Reigns, Roman versus Jimmy, and Roman versus Jey. So maybe Survivor Series at the earliest, unless they want to save it for WrestleMania, which I still think it's going to be Cody, but who knows? I still wonder if Solo starts to build momentum. Like I keep comparing it to Triple H and Batista. And Batista's popularity kind of just shot out of nowhere. Like Randy Orton was going to be the guy to be the top star, and then Batista kind of overshadowed him. And it wasn't for several years until Orton really started to find his mojo in WWE when he became not the legend killer, but the Viper. So with Solo Sikoa, if the fans want to see Solo versus Roman and see that split, I mean, Solo could be the guy. But let's just say for argument's sake that it's Cody. Then yeah, maybe Survivor Series somewhere in the fall, we see Solo Sikoa break away. And when Roman is all by himself, that's when Cody wins the Royal Rumble again and says, just like I predicted, you're all by yourself now. Your bloodline abandoned you, and I'm coming for that title. I think that's a strong possibility, but again, it all depends on how the crowd reacts to Solo, and if they really want to pull the trigger on Solo, what if Solo's the one that beats Roman Reigns? Is he the guy? Guess we'll have to wait and see how the storyline progresses. There's definitely a lot of possibilities for it. So yeah, no Forbidden Door predictions last night, Thursday night, but I am going to be doing my predictions. Saturday night, after Collision, I'll be recapping Collision and giving you my predictions, my picks for Forbidden Door. Make sure you guys tune in for that if you're interested in the AEW stuff. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says, could Cody win the Elimination Chamber instead? That is a possibility if WWE wants to go in a different direction with the Royal Rumble winner. I would not rule that out, but that's so far out. It's really hard to say when we got a good 6 months until the Royal Rumble. Anything can happen at this point. This Bloodline storyline could have a lot of twists and turns. Maybe The Rock says he's available for WrestleMania and WWE shifts gears. Like any number of scenarios could play out and changes could happen and the timeline of things could shift. We'll see. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Much love and appreciation, like I said earlier. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, spread the word, tell a friend. This was night 1 of 11 straight nights of live streaming. Stay tuned for more. I'll be back with Collision and Forbidden Door predictions. Stay tuned for that. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.